Hey everyone, welcome back. Betsperts Golf here with my friend Andy Molitor to talk about the Wells Fargo Championship. Andy, what's going on, bud?
Yeah, pumped. This is a good one. This is a good 3 weeks. Actually, 4. I don't know how everybody loves Colonial as much as I do, but it's not a bad tournament. Honestly, the whole summer now, like from here on out until you get to the Midwest, it's pretty good. Honestly, it's 8 weeks, and then suddenly it's like, oh, hey, and then you get hit by a John Deere tractor and a 3M post-it note and a Rocket Mortgage, and such is life. And those events aren't the greatest fields, but them's the breaks. You can't have it all. There's 3 majors left. We got the playoffs. It's going to be a fun 4 months here heading into what we now know is an actual real life swing season. I was a little worried about that. So this is I kind of think where everyone hits their groove. This is where I get to watch a lot more golf because just things are ending. There's not as many basketball games. The NFL draft is off my mind now. Now it's mostly just pre-prep for everything else. And yeah, this is a good one, and it's been a weird one because like you said, the biggest thing is the history here is kind of goofy with the major redesign, overhaul, whatever you want to call it. The fact that we didn't play here last year, as you can see on the screen, Homa won this. So here, I'm going to go back and forth. Max Homa won this, but he didn't win it here. They played at TPC Potomac because they had the President's Cup at this course, Quail Hollow, and apparently it takes 90 months to prep for that, so they couldn't have this event. That said, Max Homa has won at Quail Hollow, so don't discount it completely, and he's a very good golfer, but it's last year's data, that is the biggest thing. Toss it out the window unless you're just using it as, this is data of golfers playing on a tough course in this part of the country, which then it's usable. It was a tough course. I almost had to eat some words, I believe, last year. It was some decent scores round one. It's like, oh no, somebody went pretty low round one. I'm like, oh man, because I swore we're not getting in double digits here. And then of course the next 3 rounds, the course bared its teeth a little more. We saw a few more struggles. Homa won it with an 8 under, which actually, all things considered, a pretty good score. What do you remember about, honestly, this year or 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting course too. So also, I don't think you can really grab anything from President's Cup either because they changed some routing, and again, when you're dealing with team events and things of that nature, it's a little harder to see if there's anything sticky there. But you make a good point. Max won this event twice, but he has won it at both places. Pretty massive redesign in 2017 as well, heading into the PGA Championship, which is also held here. So I think trying to grab anything, pre-2017 from a course history standpoint is pretty noisy because they've done some lengthening. They changed some of the hole layouts. Like first hole used to be a hole, and now it's a pretty long, extensive dog leg to start. So this is, again, they've hosted the President's Cup and major championship golf here. So this is a very challenging golf course. So it is a long one too. We're looking at a long 7,500 plus par 71. There aren't a lot of courses that kind of compete with that type of distance in terms of regular rotations. So it is a stretching course. So length is going to come into play here quite a bit.
Yeah. And also too, just again, if you are looking at anything President's Cup wise, they played that in September. We're still towards the end of this weird part of the spring where the agronomy is a little different than, September isn't, it's the end of summer. I mean, it's still summertime. So the course is going to play a little different at that point of the year. But yeah, it's long as shit. It's hard. And second straight week where we get to say bombers are okay here. We've seen this. And one of the jarring stats I read, I don't know if Ron posted or somebody posted this, basically said Rory was dead last in the field in fairways gained one of the years that he won. Basically the guy hit just 0 fairways, but he's a good enough driver of the ball and obviously good enough all around game. He still won the event. So tee to green is important, but hitting the fairways is not. You're not going to get in a lot of trouble here. You're not going to be, too worried about spraying it a little off kilter. And, a lot of it is going to come down to if you are, I don't want to say scrambling is important because it's not for everybody. Like, I think it's, hey, are you shorter off the tee? Better hope you can scramble because you're going to have tough shots into the greens. The greens are going to be a lot tougher for you on these long irons. So but if you're a bomber and you're able to take some of these easier shots and find these greens aren't going to be that hard for you to find at that point, I'm not so worried about your scrambling. So I did kind of look at some guys that, hey, you can hit the ball quite a ways off the tee. I'm not so worried about your around the green stuff at this point because I think you're just in a way better situation irons wise. So it's gonna be different. I mean, this is every course. It's different based on your skill set, and I think you often see that where you have these two stats like this. Like, hey, this matters, unless it doesn't because you're just never going to be in that situation. Kind of one of those things where I was able to cross a few guys off or add a few guys to the list in that way. And there's some, I mean, it was 7,500 yards. There's some long holes here. So some of these guys are gonna, if you can't be long off the tee, you better be good with your long irons.
It's hard to parse through it. I think you make a really good point because the greens are bigger, like about 6,500 square feet in greens. So you will have some guys on greens, but far away, some longer putts. But because these greens, especially as we get closer to the weekend, they get fast. So they get hard to hold even for guys that have, shorter wedges in there too. So I do think strokes gain short game, something has to come into play a little bit in terms of now strokes gain short game is kind of encompassing both putting and around the green and chipping when you miss the green, because it's, even if you have a short iron in hands, they're going to be hard to hold as we get closer to the weekend. So it is a combination. It's hard to kind of parse through because you don't want to double count and say, hey, like to your point, around the green might matter less if you're on with approach, right? We want you to be really good from a proximity of 175 plus. And if you're making greens and reg there, but we're also giving you credit for being really good around the green, like that didn't come into play as much. So this is kind of hard to parse through from a data standpoint. So I do think it should be part a little bit, but you also can look into like a 3-putt avoidance or, bogey avoidance too, because again, you're going to have some long lag putting here for these guys as well. So again, it's a championship golf course. They are holding the President's Cup here. JT won the US Open here back in 2017. Like this hosts majors. We should be kind of dancing around upper single digits, and maybe low double digits, depending on, any type of weather. And again, this is another place like Augusta where they have sub air underneath it. They could do kind of whatever they want to do from a playing condition standpoint. So
I don't know why I'm wearing it. I'm wearing a US Open hat today. Not the right one. But,
hey, Torrey Pines, good comp course. Good.
I know. I do like this hat. And yeah, like you said, that's kind of the last point here. It's not an easy course. They have majors here. They have the President's Cup here. And with the redesign and how long this is, it's going to be tough. So it's awful tough. I see a lot of people going down the board, but the people who are doing that are the kind of people who are betting in Europe or Canada or 365, where it's like, yeah, I'm fine with you betting on this guy with a 10-way each way. Yeah, like that's okay. Like at a certain point, I didn't go very far down the board today. I absolutely did not. This is going to be much, much heavier in matchups. I stayed away from matchups with Mexico due to I said, hey, there's going to be guys out of nowhere shooting like 63s, 64s. That sucks for matchups because it's very hard to predict just a super hot putting around on an easy course. I like matchups on tougher courses, right? I know what I'm going to get. And that's why I did dig so deep into, players thinking about how a certain player, a specific player, lines up with a course like this, where, hey, he has this weakness, but it's mitigated by this strength because of this course. Or, hey, this guy's proximity sucks, but his 3-putt avoidance is elite. You can look at sets of stats like that where one can mitigate the other, or, I'm going with the positive spin on this. There are sets of stats like that where, it can exacerbate a problem. Obviously just going the straight opposite is if a guy's proximity sucks, from kind of the buckets where they're often to be hitting their second shot iron shots. And he's left often with very long putts on these big greens. And it's like, well, this guy's just been kind of a chipping wizard where he's been finding his way around the green like that. It's like, well, he's going to be putting, though. It's not going to be a lot of chipping here because these greens are so huge. He's likely going to hit them and just leave himself with really long putts, which has been a struggle for him. And then you can say, well, this guy's a clear downgrade for me. So maybe a bit of advice, something to look at when you're kind of looking at the course, how it's going to play, and how you think your certain golfers that you're looking to better fade are going to play on a specific track like this.
And you can parse through all that data on the sites. Again, monthly subscription is just $19 at BetSports Golf. Super cheap, $20. And then you can basically build your own model. You could feed it all these things. We keep talking about long distance proximity. You have about 56% between
you froze like a motherfucker there. New router is coming today, though. We're pretty excited. We're pretty excited to get Noonan on the fast internet this afternoon. But yeah, I have no idea what you're going to talk about there.
So again,
oh no. Yeah, you froze up bad. Well, should we let's talk about some guys we bet on, because I did make some bets, sort of, kind of. I'm getting there. Ryan just throwing his hands in the air. It is very frustrating having tech issues, and he's very frozen with his mustache like that. Dan, put him up. Put him up. I bet somebody near the top of the board. I don't love doing this. Oh, there you're back. I did take someone near the top of the board. Not a guy I like, but I'm the kind of guy who bets on Patrick Reed on the regular. So sometimes I bet on people that not everybody likes. But Cantlay, I found a 14. Probably should be 10. I mean, look, the last point is the biggest point. When I look at like form, function, stats, it's just, this is Rory McIlroy with a better putter over the last 50 rounds. Like they don't, I don't know why we're not putting him in the elite, I guess. I'm not 100% sure why Patrick Cantlay isn't in the conversation with the other big three at some point. Maybe it's just a lack of big wins. Like, Scheffler rattled off, Rahm rattled off, and it's not like Rory's won a bunch. Rory, it's mostly just really high finishes and good golf from him. But this is essentially the Rory McIlroy stats package, except he's putted better over the last 50 rounds. So, and he hit the two biggest stats here. He's top 20 in the field in driving distance, not the, Cam kind of bomber, but bomber enough. And then also top 10 in greens and regulation. I parsed that down to greens and regulation on like tougher courses, firmer greens, places where the shots are going to be a little longer, except, for him, they might not be. He does have a big driver. So I think like just based off, hey, you're a good driver of the ball who also is an elite greens and regulation stat. I'm going to put you above some of these other guys. The fact that your number is not up there with Rory makes me want to bet this. This is more of a price thing for me. And then just the bogey avoidance as well. Like if you are, if you're in a course like this, a tough course, a championship course, so you said we've used this for majors, you do need to stay out of trouble because the scores are not going to be super low here. You can't have stretches where you're bogeying 3 out of 5 holes. You can't have trouble. And his bogey avoidance has been elite over the past 50 rounds. So Cantlay 14. I'm down with that. I don't love getting this high on the board, but I was forced to here.
It's kind of where we're at with the designated events.
Yeah.
I thought it was very ironic that a moment ago I'm explaining that hopefully this is the last crappy internet session for me because I'm upgrading my internet this afternoon, and then it just goes haywire in the middle of that take. So yeah, I like Cantlay here. There's really no holes in the game. Again, designated events, I think we have to kind of go to the top of the board. This one's a little different because we don't have Scotty and we don't have Rahm. So I think we are seeing some of these guys in that Cantlay tier that are kind of compressed up to the top of the board. Because you mentioned the big three, like Cantlay is 4 in the world in terms of official world golf rankings and such. So he kind of is the next dude on the board, and there just aren't any holes in his game. I think you do mention the lack of big wins is probably why he's maybe discredited a little bit. We probably would have some situations where maybe he's 10, 12 in some weeks if he had closed the door in one of these bigger events. But he's just a guy that like you run any type of statistical modeling any week and he's in the field and you're going to be like, oh yeah, Cantley's he's been pounding it off the tee this year too. Like I know you mentioned fairways don't matter none, but like he's in it far and fairways too. So he's just putting himself in good position. No one wants to bet on him because no one wants to be rooting for him during the weekend too. So that's a piece of it as well.
That's what sucks. I'm betting on guys I don't like at all this week, which stinks. But no, and that's true. Like we said, hey, accuracy doesn't matter as much here. It's not like it doesn't help. You know, the rough isn't penal. The fairway's still better. Like it's just, hey, if hitting it in the fairway is a 20% drop to hitting it in the rough, you know, maybe it's only 10 here. You know, it's less. It still helps. Like the fact that he's hitting it straight, pure, and putting it where he wants it. It's not like, oh, that doesn't matter here. So,
yeah,
I'm resigned to bet a guy I don't love, but such is life, and I want to make some money.
Yep, I like it. I definitely was hoping that we would, and I don't know why, especially as I mentioned without Scotty and Rahm, that we would get something closer to 20 on some of these guys, Cantley in particular. And yeah, that's not happening. So no problem with that there. Let me see. Yeah, he's 6th for me, which is, you know, surprisingly lower, but there's literally like, he's doing nothing wrong in basically anything in the last couple of months. So no problem.
No, you know, it's good to do like rankings when you build your model, but also look at the gaps, like, because it's a chunk at the top for me. Like there's 5 at the top. And that's why I said, like, why would I bet Rory at this price when I can have, hey, we have Rory at home. You know, it's like, oh, it's Patrick Cantlay. It's just without the stupid accent. So give me 14-1 on him rather than, and I know a lot of places have 12. I'd probably bet it down to 12. If you're seeing like 10 or lower, maybe stay away from that.
Looks like FanDuel in terms of domestics is the best on the board right now. There are 15s, but there
15
are
now.
15 at FanDuel, but there are 12s pretty much everywhere else. So nothing wrong with your 14.
Go on to done. All right, you're up. I mean, we all know where this is going.
Well, yeah, I'll start there because I tried to talk myself out of reasons to back Max Homa this week, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't really find a reason not to. You mentioned, again, I'm not, the course history legit has nothing to do with it, but he did win here last year, cashed to 60 for me, which is lovely. I'm obligated to take my family out to ice cream when that happens. And there are multiple times I'm at my in-laws when that happens. And my wife is, she's got a lot of family. So I spent most of my last year's Homa winnings on ice cream for my family. But yeah, he's the rest of his game is just, it fits here, right? He loves playing here. There's really nothing that he does poorly. And I have him, he's like 10th on the betting board, and he should be closer to these other guys, closer down to 20. So 25 on Homa is bettable. It's actually moved the other way in the right market, which is interesting. The books are not afraid to take your Homa money, which I think is, I don't know how I feel about that per se, but there, I believe 29 out there on FanDuel currently. There's just really nothing that he does poorly. He's really strong in par 4 scoring. He is, takes advantage of the par 5s. The short game is excellent. 3-putt avoidance is nice as well. So Homa would be my first off the board. I kind of clicked in the same range as well because I think we have to. I think we have to kind of change the way that we bet outrights in designated events because it just is really hard. To your point, is you could beat Finau or Rahm in Mexico, but can you get past the other 15 guys that are in there? In the spot like this, like they're not going to Mexico, so you can fire down the board there with a little bit more confidence and give yourself some outs. You just can't really do that here at these designated events. So I think we have to start there, and Homa being sub 30 is the play for me.
Yeah. I cashed him here too. This was one of those where we both hit it, except I bet it on like Wednesday at like 46-1, where you had like a 60. So I remember I was like sad and happy. I'm sure the Germans have a word for that, but it was nice. It was awful nice getting him home. And he's a guy we like. I mean, what do we want to say? Like, he's a Twitter guy. He's all over social. He's fun. Once in a while, I mean, he replies to the masses, and he's got perspective now. And he's an elite golfer. Like he's not in that top tier, but he's so close. He's so close. Like if he takes down a major over the summer, it's it. Then he should be talked about with the biggest names in golf. Absolutely. And I'd love to see that. Honestly, I don't hate his game at Oak Hill. So I'm going to see what the prices are. There's probably going to be a bet. I didn't bet him here, but I'm probably going to be betting him at the U.S. Open as we move closer, or excuse me, the PGA.
I bet him at the U.S. Open in LA. I think I made that bet in
you made that a while ago. That's such a no-brainer, but it's also like, hey, it's LA. He's a West Coast guy. He wins on both coasts now, though.
That's the thing. Yep.
Speaking of guys who win on only places that are completely surrounded by coast, I took a European here.
Okay.
A lot
I know where this is.
I hate it now because everybody took them. Like I haven't seen a preview article come across my timeline, and I don't click on all of them, but all the freaking preview articles are coming across. Got a picture of Victor Hovland on it. I'm like, oh no, I don't believe in he's mushed and like everybody's bet him and he can't win. Now we have a thing called community wins. That happens. That will happen. So I mean, everybody was on Homa. I mean, it was on a lot of cards last year. I remember a lot of people cashed with us. So it sucks that everybody else likes him, and I'm worried about that. But I love him here. And we're starting to see some improvements in the short game. Like it's not good. It's not good yet. Like he's not good. If short game is around the green plus putting. And both of those, he's below average, especially in a field like this. But it's getting better. Like you're seeing upticks. You're seeing, if you actually watch him play, you're seeing like, hey, that was a good shot. That was a nice little flop. That was a nice little bump and run. Like he's starting to get it. He's actually working on it. And I mean, if you take that out, he's a top 5 ball striker. I mean, he just is. And the way this course plays, the way his, like I alluded to earlier, how does a certain player play this course with his skill set? His around the green and putting flaws should be less noticeable. I need him to not screw up these big lag putts on a few of the greens where he has longer putts. And I think we're fine. He did very well here in his 2021 debut. He top 5'd. And he's played here before. He's played well here before. And he's playing really good. It sucks that I wanted like a 22, but I'm still going to take him 19-1. I think this guy's just waiting. Maybe he's this year's Homa, where it's like, all right, now he gets some bigger wins.
But he's starting from such a higher baseline too. Like if we get starts running off a few, he's going to be, he'll be part of it. He'll make a big 4, to be honest, because we're all expecting him to be great since he came out of college. So I took the other mush guy this week. The other guy, if you don't have Victor Hovland, if Hovland's not your cover boy, Cam Young is your cover boy. And I get why people are there. They're seeing some of the same stuff. We're talking about distance mattering, really outside of Rory in terms of driving distance, carry distance. We're going to be looking at just Cam Young mashing the ball. As we mentioned too, this is the other thing that applies to Homa. I think there's some pretty strong corollary to success at Torrey Pines and at Riviera. Max has won at both, which is pretty good. And we've seen some really nice performances from Cam Young too. Like he hasn't, finally got into the winner's circle, but really strong performance at Torrey Pines. Same thing, almost won at Riv 2 years ago when Neiman won that. So, and then the other thing here, which is interesting, is that we've seen what he did last year was just bomb and putt. He putted lights out all year. He's been really struggling with the putter, but really nice putting performances, both in match play and at Augusta. And now we have Paul Tesori on the bag. He made that change at the match play. Paul Tesori, longtime caddy of Webb Simpson. We used to bet Webb Simpson here all the time. He lives on the 7th hole. Paul Tesori lives in the area as well. He knows this course. And again, I don't want to overrate that, but like a guy who has been just kind of flying by off of just pure skill with real like caddy knowledge to lean into, Paul Tesori is just going to get Cam Young into a different spot. And I think that that's going to play itself out here this week in a course that he knows really well. So yeah, Cam is mushed I got 25s early Monday morning. I think you could still get 20s. But again, I think it's below 20 in some spots as well. Let me see what we got. 21 on FanDuel. So FanDuel's still best in market. A lot of other places down at below that. So yeah, Cam Young, the other mush of the week. But I get why people are on Cam Young and Victor Hovland this week. Just they hit the ball far. The ball striking can be pretty great when they're on.
Yeah. And I will say Cam Young's pretty high in my list of guys where it's like, hey, his baseline is probably high. And if I find some matchups against guys that I think have a wider distribution of scores, especially some long tails to the high score end, like I'm going to use Cam Young in matchups. I have looked at him at positional stuff. I just think the number sucks. Same thing with Hovland. It's like, I'm going to bet one of these guys, ain't I? So it's not like I hate Hovland. I just hate betting on him. It's the inevitable like chip out of the rough that goes 3 feet. Like, oh no, you're still chipping. This sucks.
That's how I feel about Xander.
Yeah,
that's
the thing. I've never won a bet on Xander. I'm not sure. The only bet I've ever won on Xander, and I've brought this up multiple times, was when I just bet an American will win the gold medal, and it was basically like, hey, here's a price for Morikawa that I think also includes a couple other guys that might have a chance, and ended up getting that was my Xander outright, the Olympics. So I'm just off Xander for the rest of my life. I've usually a West Coast swing. There's a couple Xander tickets. Maybe I should just stop doing that altogether. So, all right, my next guy here. Yeah, you're I can't hear you. So. My next guy is not that much further down the board. And I love this guy. This is a guy I love. This is a guy I like to cheer for. This guy I like to watch golf. I mean, he's been so close. And I feel good about not betting him recently. Oh, there we go. Noonan's back. He's moving again. He's giving the finger to, I don't know, the Mount Olympus or what, but
Internet God. I don't know.
The internet gods. This is a guy I like watching. I like cheering for. I enjoy him as a person, as a personality, but also very good golfer. He's been so close. He had 3 runner-ups last summer, 4 top 10s this calendar year. He's playing really good golf, and I don't hate him anywhere. It's not the truest of Bermuda, but like he can win on this surface. He can win here. He can play well here. He has played, well on comp courses. And it's just like when I look at the all around, it's like, all right, off the tee, Hovland, great. Irons. And then obviously you have the around the green, bad. Same thing like, hey, even looking at Rory, it's like putting 50th, in the field as far as over a decent round. Like everybody seems to have one stat that kind of sticks out that's a bit of a weakness. Just doesn't have any deficiencies right now. All of the major 4 SG categories are pretty high over the last 6 months. He's just playing really good golf, and we're not getting that pop out of him yet. So maybe this is the spot. 28-1. I think this should be closer to like 22. I think he's another one of those names that should be up a little higher towards, like he should be, him and Homa should be like 20. There's a couple guys that should be dropping down a little further. So Sungjae, 28, pretty happy with that. I don't know. If we get another runner up, I'm going to be pissed. Maybe I should add a top 5 to this.
Yes, there's just nothing wrong in his game. Like lately, his long irons haven't been great, but that like historically is one of his strengths. So I think kind of betting on positive regression there, you're probably doing the right thing. So the middle part of this board, I have not really engaged with, but I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are. Because again, like we're talking about bombs having a difficulty getting there. You get into like some of these guys, they feel a little too short in like the 30 to 60 range, an area that we typically like to bet into. But the one that I think is another mush guy that's interesting and the price is fairly good is Sam Burns. Did you give Burnsy a look? Is there anyone else in this range that you considered at all?
I did. I'm probably going to use Burns in matchups. Look at him for one and done. I don't think that this isn't a bad spot for him here. It's a big purse, but he's played well at courses like this. So I couldn't quite pull the trigger at the price.
Yeah, it's a little, I don't know. It looked like it was bouncing Monday morning and then kind of came back to earth. So Rickie is insane to me that Rickie is out there at 28. Rickie love is full on back for people that want to get on the Rickie train. Like you're paying the freight for sure. And again, like he's been playing really good golf. I get it, but that is really steep to me. Tom Kim, Sahith Theegala, I like these guys. I'm excited about their future. Just haven't really seen it. Sahith is just like, I watch him, I want to root for him. He's good. I just never know when to click Sahith. Like the approach game is never really dialed in. Feels magic beans sort of stuff. Like I don't know. This range is tricky for me. I kind of skipped it.
I did. I skipped a lot in there. I did have, and I'll let you have the closer then because I did bet somebody in this range. I couldn't pull the trigger on this.
This is acceptable though.
This is as far as I could go. So I just looked. I'm like, people are betting Rickie Fowler to win. Can't do it. Not a thing. I'm going to actually physically take money and put this on. I can bet Rickie Fowler to play well enough to be in the discussion. He seems to be more focused. I know this is not very like data-driven stuff. It's more of like watching him golf, but the results are coming with it if you want the data. Top 20 finishes in 6 of his last 8 stops. That is, the 8 stops are basically this calendar year. Average finish of 20.5 this calendar year with 0 missed cuts. And that includes a 54 at like the Amex or one of the early ones. Basically for the last like 7 tournaments he's played in, actual real stroke play ones that we're counting, his average finish is like 15th, man. He's not good enough to beat a designated field, I don't think. But he is damn sure playing good fine golf right now. And I think he's going to be in the mix. You look at it, you look at the rankings, and this is a discussion for a different day that happens on Twitter every day. But yeah, the OWGR is broken. It's not right. He's like the 60th best golfer in the world. But if you look at some of the people that actually take some stats and how golfers are actually playing and look at it, Data Golf ranks him 27th. And obviously that includes, I think, 4 or 5 live guys ahead of him that obviously aren't here. There's a few guys that aren't here. I think if you take the Data Golf rankings and pull out the people who aren't playing here, he's like right around 18th, 19th, 20th, somewhere in there. Golf Week Sagarin rankings have him 15th. He's figured something out. He deserves to be talked about as like one of the 20 best golfers in the world at this little renaissance he's having in the mid, he's 34, 35, but I mean, there's a lot of tread left on those tires, and we've seen him play really good golf. I mean, it's the same discussion we had about Jordan Spieth 2 years ago. Like, oh no, he's done. Like Jordan Spieth is just never going to play, and we can always bet against him because he has a good name. And then he figured it out. He got something happens with a new caddy, we see with Tesori, we're talking about a caddy already today. A new training regimen, a new diet, a new trainer, just whatever you're doing differently, or just taking the game seriously again after maybe figuring out I don't want to throw his wife under the bus, but I think she did ruin him for a while. I mean, the timing was very coincidental, Ryan, when suddenly Rickie wasn't a good golfer anymore. So Rickie Fowler, top 20 plus 160 or better. I like that because I seriously like just looking at how I think he can play even in a designated field. I think 20 is about his median finish, and I'm getting a big plus number on that.
I like this. I have no problem with, again, like he is playing consistently good golf and deserves some attention for that. Again, I think the outright books or bookmakers are trying to get some outright money, and I like how you did it, and I think that's a pretty nice number. So no problem with that.
Yeah, even some of the better numbers like 40 to, I can't bet him 40 to 1 to win.
No, you can't. You shouldn't.
No. But I do like him in a positional matchup, or honestly, if we get some matchups versus some people around his number, like give me a Theegala matchup, give me, I don't know, Keith Mitchell. Actually, I like Keith Mitchell a lot. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I use Rickie in matchups. For right now, top 20 is a bet I love quite a bit.
Yeah, I like Mitchell too. There's that like little pocket I want to ask about. I think it's going to get some action. It probably will be where people go when they go down the board a little bit. Thoughts and prayers to the people that continue to back Gary Woodland. The Gary Woodland experience is a tough one to watch. The ball striking is tremendous. Course history here is nice. I understand why people will want to click Gary Woodland. If you have not been betting Gary Woodland, I think jump it. If you've been betting Gary Woodland and watching any of that, I understand why people would be hesitant to jump back in. The putting is so bad. And again, I know it's the old.
I mean, just 3-footers. I mean, it was like me on the mini golf course. What are we doing here? Have you ever putted before? Like I had him last week, and it was maddening because he had some really good stretches, and then he just give it back, or like give up scoring opportunities. Yeah, I'm off Woodland for a bit until we figure something out with putting.
Yeah, that little tier of Woodland, Keith Mitchell, Keegan Bradley, Wyndham Clark, I think is all pretty interesting. I think they all are nice course fits here, all playing decent golf at certain times this season. I kind of like that tier. The other one is interesting to me that I wanted to talk about to see if it caught your eye at all, just because Chris is way off market. It's a name that I liked coming into the event, not a guy I typically bet, but Chris is a very favorable number in terms, almost double what some of the other books are. Did you look at Tommy Fleetwood at all?
A little bit.
Okay.
There's like 75. I mean, it was close. Another one where
that's why I asked.
Hey, you give me a Tommy Fleetwood Gary Woodland matchup at a decent price. Maybe that's something I'm looking at. It was close, but again, I didn't want to go too far down the board in this one. Just it's another elevated event. I think for the most part, you're just not going to get a bunch of long shots winning these over the course of a full season. You're going to get like 2 long shots that win or almost win a designated event. Otherwise, it's going to be 30 and below guys, man. It just feels that way with the level of golf we're seeing from the top tier. There's a strong top tier. It's not like we're in a weak spot for golf right now. Even with, 3 or 4 of the top 20 players in the world, not even on tour right now. It's just depending how you feel about Neiman, I guess. But there's still such a strong upper crust, and they're here.
I got room for one more up top. I don't know what I'm going to do with it or if I'm going to use it elsewhere. But I took one shot down the board in the outright market, and I thought the number was bad. I was looking early on Monday morning. It opened at 66 at a bunch of places. And then when PointsBet came in, they offered a nice round 100 to 1 on Taylor Moore. Taylor Moore has been playing really well. Again, now we won at Copperhead, which is, again, it wasn't a designated event, but actually in terms of like the non-designated events, like they had a pretty good field. It's a tough course as well.
Yeah, people like going to that event. I mean, you're right. That course is not easy.
Yep. And then really just look at what he's done. I mean, T39 or better in 7 of the past 8. The past 24 rounds, or you're going like the past 12 rounds. That doesn't even include the win at Copperhead. And he ranks 5th for me in my model this week. You extend it out to 24 rounds. He's still in like right around the top 12. He is popping in the top 25 in long par 4 scoring, which we have a bunch of this week. Short game is really strong. Driving distance is excellent. And then the par 5 scoring as well, he's taking advantage of. So I like him to T40, get that at minus 110. And then I sprinkled the 100 to 1 because I think it's just a bad number. And he's proven he can win at tough golf courses. So for Taylor Moore to win twice in 6 weeks, probably a stretch. But again, when there's 66s out there, I'm willing to give a little bit of pizza money to 100 to 1 to see if he can do it again. So
yeah, I mean, there were some deep numbers I looked at, like I Siwoo at a big price.
Yeah,
I mean, I looked at the Taylor Moore. There's 100 still out there for me. Davis Riley 120. Like there's some big numbers. Like I can't do this here. And with you, like you're saying, you bet the top 40. And then the little sprinkle on the 100 to 1 just in case. Which is
he's been playing well.
That's where I was at with I mentioned this too. I don't think I can do it with Rickie, but boy, that hurts your heart when you have just like a top 40 price and the guy's playing. He's like in the second to last group on Sunday. You're just mad that you don't have it outright. Yeah. It wasn't like a massive price on Hadwin in the team play at Zurich, but I was pissed that I bet top 20s and the guy was leading. At that point, you're cheering against him, like somebody else. I can't have this in my life. So yeah, you don't need the tilt. Put a small bet on a bet like that, especially if you think the price is just wrong.
Well, that's the thing, right?
That's the whole basis of sports betting. I think this price is wrong.
Yeah, the each way that I have it domestic with Bet Rivers, their outright number is 66. So at this point, I'd rather just take the 100, straight up, and then just get basically minus 110 on a T40. So I don't even need him to like really flirt with the top. I just need him to play well. Like I said, T39 or better in 7 of 8. And we're getting him, at minus 110 here to do it again, to keep the train rolling. So again, just leaning on guys that have that distance advantage this week, those long irons. Like, I feel like there's some predictability in terms of what matters here. Now you can get around here without the massive distance, but man, it's just so much thinner in terms of what you need to do in terms of the rest of your game, tee to green, if you don't have that distance. You got to be really dialed in with those long irons. You got to scramble your face off. It just is harder to do. So for me, I'm just kind of trying to take that out of play. I want to lean on guys that can push it down there a little bit further. So that'd be somewhere I would go if I was doing what Andy's doing and looking at matchups. See if there's some guys priced at the top of the board that maybe are a little bit shorter. That also maybe struggle around the greens, like a Morikawa, for instance. Like, again, Morikawa could just absolutely be dialed in with his irons, and it won't even matter. But it's going to be pushed back a little bit further than some of these guys. If he's not scrambling really well or putting really well, then you can get in a spot where he's at a disadvantage to some of the longer guys.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. So I don't know if I have a whole lot more to say. I think we did a tight 40 today. I don't, we already kind of talked about bombs. There's not a lot that I want to add. I'm going to do matchups. I have like 9 more meetings today somehow. I don't know how my Tuesday got so fucked. But once I'm done with all that, I'm going to dig into matchups. Hopefully have some stuff in the Discord later. And like Ryan mentioned, we want to get in the Discord, $20 a month. Honestly, keep your eye out. There's promo codes floating all over for that anyway. If you want to save a few bucks on that, I would suggest that. I do see some people doing weekly. And like, I don't want to cost us money here, but weekly is like $10, which is nice. Hey, you want to just do a week or two? That's fine. But monthly is $20. It is, well, I guess the yearly one is probably the best value if you want to drop 200. But the monthly sub being $20, it's like $5 a tournament. I think that's very reasonable to use the tools to get in the Discord, ask the questions, and take advantage of seeing what everybody else is betting on. So, yeah. Go over to betspreadsgolf.com right at the top right. You can click subscribe. And like we said, 20 bones. And 20 bones gets you the PGA Championship, which is in 3 weeks. So monthly subs right now get you a major at this point, as well as Byron Nelson next week. I don't remember is that it? Is it Wells Fargo, Byron Nelson, and then a major? We right into it?
I think that's it. Yeah.
And then Colonial.
Yeah, I'd pull up and look at the schedule, but my computer would probably shut down and my house would explode.
Yeah, the Charles Schwab Challenge, May 25th.
Yep.
And then the Memorial starts on June 1st. So if you sign up today, you'd get like 1 day of the Memorial. Maybe sign up tomorrow. Or just let your sub keep renewing, guys. That's how it works. That's how we keep the lights on. So appreciate it. If you watch this on YouTube, please do the thumbs up. Please subscribe, rate, review, comment with who you think wins. We're doing a contest coming up. Not like one where you can win. I can't give away anything great. Like you can win a round with Lee, play with, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. Win a round with Paige. I think those are all spoken for, but I give away some free subs, some free gear, some shit like that. Maybe we'll do something like that where we do some comments on the YouTube stream or some leave some reviews on the podcast, and we'll give something away. So I'll brainstorm something for me, for Noonan, for producer Dan, for everyone here at Bet Sports Golf. We'll catch you next week.